To order the City of Portage Planning Commission meeting for Monday, June 5th. If you would stand and say the pledge. Mr. Monroe, could you call roll?
Tom Sherry,
Here.
Gina Geishurst,
Here.
Sam LeBoy,
Here.
John Harrison,
Here.
Charles Thompson,
Here.
Melissa Weidenbach,
Here.
Kevin Witherspoon,
Here.
Denise Little.
Here. If everybody's had an opportunity to look at the minutes, and if there are no additions or corrections, may I have a motion?
I make a motion to accept the minutes.
We have a motion. May I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Any old or reports?
None at this time. Council?
And we have old business under public hearing. Could you call the first one?
Yes, first item is P0223 RCJJ Development LLC, 14400 Lakeshore Drive, Cedar Lake, Indiana, seeking primary plat approval for Bauer Farms subdivision, 57.95 acres at the 600 block of 700 North, 236 lots.
Attorney McClure?
Wait for him to get seated down. As I spoke with the developer's attorney today, the developer and his counsel need to have an opportunity to meet with myself and the city attorney. We have some things to iron out as they relate to stormwater and to the sanitary, to give the Planning Commission an idea of the stormwater issues. The discharge point is this is into the county. So we have an interplay with the county along with the Portage Stormwater Code. Some of those details need to be ironed out before we can move further on that. And then we also have a little bit of things to deal with as far as the sanitary and as it relates to Cardinal Crossing, to make sure we got the right information and be able to move forward. I do believe that meeting is, the city attorney was attempting to get that set up today, maybe even Friday. So I expect that to be done pretty quickly. I don't however feel that obviously that this is able to be moved forward tonight towards an approval. Given the things that need to be discussed, I would at this point in time obviously like to hear the opinion of the developer, but given the fact that we do have a little bit of a tangled web to get through, I doubt that we will have approvals ready for the next meeting in 30 days. So as we have gotten ourselves to a public meeting with the public having been notified, I'm not sure we want to continue on this monthly cycle of having the public show up to not be ready to proceed. And in fairness to the developer, that's a little bit of on them, and that's a little bit of on the city themselves. So I would request, or at least recommend, that the matter be tabled, and then the same individuals that were notified of the original meeting be re-notified by certified mail when this comes back on the agenda, so that the public is re-notified, but they are not forced to come every month while we try to figure this out.
So would they come back as a new application, or,
No, not a new application, same application.
but postponed for an indefinite time?
Well, yeah, technically that would be the table. I'm trying to avoid I'm not trying to avoid continuing it to the next month's meeting to a date certain, because I'm not sure how long it's going to take for us to get to an approval point at this point. It doesn't mean I believe it's months away, it just means I'm not sure 30 days is going to be enough to turn that around.
Then may,
But I'd like to hear from the developer. It's obviously their petition, so.
okay.
Well, obviously, what Scott said, I guess I would think that in 30 days, we should definitely have the sanitary worked out. I'm supposed to be at the sanitary board meeting this Thursday. We've been proceeding for over a year on the assumption we're going to discharge across the street into the sewer. Nobody said a word about anything, the system not being able to handle it, so we got that thrown at us right away. But our owner did meet with Mr. Gore, and they have come up to a solution on how to address this. So I would think in 30 days, the sanitary should be able to be worked out. It's not as difficult, I think, as everybody thinks it is. So I'm hopeful in that. The stormwater, the stormwater kind of is what it is, Denise. I mean, it's designed pursuant to city standards, but Scott said we do need to meet with himself and the city attorney to make sure we're all on the same page regarding that. But the sanitary that we're speaking of is all off-site. There's nothing that's actually on our site itself. It's all off-site, and it deals with Cardinal Crossing and the Arvilla lift station. So, and Mr. Teranga, who's with us tonight, our engineer, has actually looked into that. And we believe we have a routing figured out. And we're going to be discussing that with Mr. Gore as well, and presenting that to both attorneys when we sit and meet about this. So, but it is an off-site issue, and I am hopeful that there's no question, I think in a month, we can have those things worked out. I did want the opportunity to address just a couple things that came up from, you know, like the DRC meeting, just so that the Plan Commission's aware of kind of what we're doing here. There was a couple things in engineering, ponds 1 and 5. Luke wanted plunge pools put in, we changed those. Those are easy.
A plunge pool?
It's just an engineering, it's with the detention ponds. It's just a way when the water enters, it just hits this plunge pool and, or I'm sorry, when it exits. But anyway, it's not a big deal. Don's taking care of that. There was a traffic study that was brought up by the DRC. That has been commissioned by First Group Engineering. Counts have been done. I will have that this week over to the staff, so they can take a look at the traffic study. So that has been commissioned. Any ADA compliance issues that were brought up, we've looked into those. There's really no compliance issues that we can actually see. There was an issue brought up about 2 foot above the top of curb of where our lowest point of entries are at. And we have this subdivision designed so that we have one builder coming in. So every single lot is designed with a top of foundation set. There's no guessing on how the lots are gonna be. And the part of the code that was referenced was finished grade of the foundation shall be a minimum of 24 inches above the top of curb when appropriate. Well, in this case, 24 inches above the top of curb would mean an 8% slope on the driveway. So to give you guys an idea of what that means if you parked your car in your driveway and it's the wintertime and you got out, you're gonna slip down your driveway. That's what an 8 to 10% slope is. We try to maintain a 3% slope, which is a nice gradual slope on the driveway that's comfortable for people, and you don't feel like you're gonna slip every time you get out. We have positive grade away from the home, so like I said, all of those are set. Every single lot is accounted for. But that's why we're going to say that it's probably not appropriate in this case, because the slope is just too great. I mean, never do you go with an 8 or 10% slope unless you have no choice. So I just wanted to bring that to the attention of the Plan Commission. Anything else that was brought up was, there was some question about the stop signs on the plan. That's all straightened out. The staff wanted a design on the T turnarounds. The T turnarounds are at the dead ends where the fire trucks turn around, or the garbage truck or anything. So we prepared all the designs on the T turnaround. So safety ledge on a pond, that's already taken care of. So I guess once we get past the actual off-site sanitary and some of the question on storm, I think we can have that worked out. So, I mean, I'm extremely hopeful that we'll have everything 100% ready to go by next month. Well, like I said, the traffic study will be here this week. The staff will have that a month ahead of time. So there's really nothing that was brought up, and I took pretty good notes, that we have not already addressed, with the exception of, as Scott said, we just need to make sure we're in agreement on the off-site sewer and the storm.
And if you're ready within a month, we'll be back. We'll be here. You'll be back. Anything else, Mr. McClure?
No, if we, just to be clear, if you continue it to next month, they'll be back next month, and we'll see where we're at. If we can table it, it definitely won't be next month, because if we table it, then the process to get the first-class notification out again wouldn't happen in time. So, just to be clear, if we continue it, it'll be next month. If we table it, it'll be a minimum of 60 days from now.
I guess my formal request would be a continuance. If, from our petitioner side, that is gonna be my formal request then.
You don't want us to table it then? Is that what you're
Well,
saying?
if I didn't think we would be ready in a month, I would wholeheartedly agree. I would say that, yes, but I think that the two issues that are at hand, I don't see any reason they can't be worked out in the next week or so. I mean, as soon as we have a meeting, we'll get all this stuff worked out. I guess that's what I'm saying, and I'm requesting that. Now, if there's something nuclear that blows up within this next 30 days, and by next month, we know this, then I would say, well, maybe it's time to table then. But short of those two issues, I can't see anything else that's coming up that's not been handled.
Then I do have a question about the public hearing. Because they would receive notice again, the public will know whenever they come back.
Correct.
Okay. And what about the public hearing for tonight?
We're gonna have one.
We are going to have one. Okay,
Public hearing's still open.
okay.
And the public hearing will be open whether we come back next month or after it's tabled.
Okay. Has that completed your presentation?
Unless the board actually has any questions of us.
Okay. Well, after the public hearing, we'll go.
Sure.
I will now open the public hearing. Since we have so many people here, I would ask that you keep your comments within a 2-minute time frame. I think that would be enough. And if everybody has a new topic, instead of saying the same thing over and over again. If you feel uncomfortable coming in front of the board and would like to submit something in writing, we would have that presented for you and made part of our minutes. So I will now open the public hearing. Is there anybody here to speak for the petitioner? Is there anybody here to speak for the petitioner? Is there anybody here to speak for the petitioner? Is there anybody here to speak against the petitioner? And I'll have, come up. We have 3, 4. So if the first one could come up, and then in about a minute after somebody starts, I would have the next person waiting so that we can keep this going. And I'm not sure who's first. Thank you.
Do I need to sign in?
Yes.
I'm going to put my mom's address. I'm reading her letter for her, okay? And before I read her letter, my sister-in-law and my brother were here for the last meeting last month, and there were several questions that were asked. Will they be addressed tonight and answered?
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Sorry.
Denise, how would you know what they are right now?
Well, you didn't take notes from last meeting?
Hold on,
I'm
I'm
sorry.
not speaking to you. Before
Sorry.
you answer that, we would need to address what those questions are and then have the petitioner, whether or not the petitioner is in a position to respond to them.
Correct.
Okay.
And if I would think that if they couldn't, then they would say, I don't know yet.
Understand.
Okay, so can I ask one more question?
What you'll do is address your questions. We will take notes.
Okay.
And then they will also be taking notes so
Okay.
that they can answer any questions that come up.
Well, the question I have is, so the questions that were asked last month's meeting that were taken notes on were not submitted to them to be answered?
They were here, they have those.
Okay, very good, okay.
So-
I'll just read the letter.
Okay, and then that way we know exactly what her questions were.
Yeah, she's
Okay.
got some in here. And really, it's more comments also, okay? City of Portage Plan Commission, 6070 Central Venue, Portage, Indiana, 46368. Addressing concerns of Mary A. Twilla, 664 West 700 North, Hobart, Indiana, 46342, regarding the Bower Farm subdivision in the 600 block of 700 North, Porter County, Indiana, and of course, the minutes that were given last month were incorrect, so I had to kind of change and write this tonight. P-02-23. Is that the correct number? Because I had 22 from the last notes. So is it 23? Okay, all right. RCJJ Development LLC, 14400 Lakeshore Drive, Cedar Lake, Indiana. So far, what has been done on the property has flooded my backyard and my neighbors several times. Since our field tiles for our septic systems are in our backyards, this is a concern. Each time they have taken care of the issue, but not until one of us have complained. I do appreciate that it has been addressed. However, we would like to know if there is a permanent solution or that we can expect flooding after each rainfall. That field always looked like a lake following a rainfall. Also, since these houses are going to be built on the east side of my property and the south side of my property, per the May 1, 2023 agenda I received at the meeting, P-02-23 stated seeking primary plat approval for Bower Farm subdivision, 57.95 acres at the 600 block of 700 North, 236 lots, end of quote. The very next point of new business is PD-01-23, in quotes, seeking approval for the preliminary development plan for Sandy Trails development plan, end of quotes. Our objection to the P-0223 is that it appears that it had already been approved prior to this plan until I received my certified letter postmarked April 17, 2023. Was there a preliminary approval? Sorry, I lost my place. For P-0223 in a commission meeting or a previous public hearing, so that's the question. If so, when? They are both listed under new business. Why has there been massive construction / land moving equipment working prior to the May 1, 2023 meeting and continues to work on that land, including today, to what appears to be preparing it for construction of the homes for the subdivision? Another question, what kind of buffer zone or easement is between the properties of the subdivision and my property? Will the developer be required to construct privacy fencing to separate the subdivision from those of us that are not part of the subdivision? My concern is that people will be on my property since it is open field, and should someone get hurt, I may be liable, even though I did not give permission to be on my land. I have lived here almost 48 years and have enjoyed seeing the deer, ducks, birds, and other animals in my backyard. With all the noise from so many houses and cars, I am afraid all of that will be gone. Also, a beautiful sight to go out in the backyard at night and look up and see beautiful sky, stars, etc., because it is quiet and dark. That too will be gone because of street lights, noise, etc. The stress and anxiety this is causing me is difficult to put into words. Every time I go outside and see the equipment working, drive down 700 North and see how the land has been cleared and changed, or have my property flooded, I do get very sad. We also have a lot of traffic on 700 North now. What happens with at least 236 more cars trying to get in and out of the subdivision with one road in and out on 700 North? Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Mrs. Mary A. Twilla, 664 West 700 North, Hobart, Indiana.
Thank you. Anybody else to speak against the petitioner?
My name's Joe Reed. I live on 672 West 700 North. I want to address the two issues that were brought up of the storm drainage of it is what it is. As of right now, there's a problem. If we get heavy rains, Willow Creek is shut down from 700 to Route 6. So it's not, it is what it is. And the other issue I'd like to bring up is you did a count on vehicles, and it's very intelligent on picking Memorial Day week to count cars. I'll give you that, because I think that that should be stricken from the record, because that is one of the most traveled days of the year. And obviously you want to say, well, there's so many cars, and we're only adding a couple hundred to change your percentages. Those are the only two new things I'm going to bring up.
Thank you.
And the sewer thing, we assumed that we were going to be able to tie in. You shouldn't assume that before you start building.
My name's Joe Bergler. I've farmed this property since I was in high school. My dad farmed it for years before that. You can tell I've been out of high school a long time. I farmed the property to the east, the 46 acres there along 700 and 625. I own the property directly to the south of that, and I want to know what they're going to do with all the water from that. I'm hearing storm water. There's no storm sewers out there. They've changed the topography immensely, if anybody's been out there to look at it. You can't even tell what the farm used to be compared to what it is now. I just want to know where all this water is going to go. Because right now, there's only one tile going out of that, going back to the north, and all that water, all these years, has flowed north out of this property, and they don't have any access hardly at all up there to get rid of the water. So I'd just like to know who's going to address this issue. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rondé Sullivice. This is a list of the accidents that have taken place in my yard since 2004. These are the ones that have been prosecuted. In the last 4 years, the county's had to replace the culvert pipe 4 times.
Could you speak directly in? You're a little bit soft.
Okay, sorry. The speed limit on the road is 40, but it's actually how fast you can go from 0 to 60. There's no edge. You go off the road, you're in my yard. And it's not just me. And along our stretch of 700, our properties are about 150 feet or 170 feet wide. That means 2 homeowners would have about 7 houses on their front yard. In perspective, the depth of our properties are about 700 feet. That's almost 14 houses in this 236 sized building site they're proposing. You're talking about sewage and storm systems. You annexed an unincorporated area. It's unincorporated. We don't have city sewers. We don't have city drainage. And putting all of this stress on the system that's not designed for it, you're putting it on the city and just the unincorporated area, just deal with it. This isn't happening in your backyard. The crime in Portage, if you pay any attention, if you live in Portage, how can you feel comfortable? We're gonna have all these homes. We have our yards, and they're big, and they're trees, and when it storms and the branches break, we have little fires in our yard to burn the branches. So you're gonna have 236 homes, and this is just the Bowers subdivision that you're talking about, or development. What about the one from 700 to Route 6? What if all those people decide they want to have little fires in their yards? 50-foot wide lots? And sponge pulls, you say it's no big deal in the traffic. When County Line Orchard is open, the traffic on 700, I can sit in my driveway forever waiting to get out. And You know, I used to run on all the county roads. Now I'm scared to even go get my mail in the daylight. I wait until nighttime, and when COVID came along, traffic really died down. That was great, you know. I didn't feel scared to go get my mail. And the other night, speaking of farming, I was driving down Swanson Street, and these two, I don't know if they were large kids or adults, but on a four-wheelers, they were tearing through the farmer's field. If I would have been driving, they tore through the field, crossed Swanson, and they went into the subdivision that's east of Swanson. What's going to happen when this area is developed? You know, we're not going to feel safe. Like, we don't have fences all the time. I mean, I have fences, I have horses, but two of my fences I took down because they got hit so many times. And, you know, people don't have insurance like they're supposed to have. You know, and we feel safe. We have security cameras so we can see, you know, there are deer out there. One morning I woke up, and this was April 11th at 6:51 in the morning. There were 4 turkeys in my backyard. They came from the woods that were just torn down. They had to jump or fly. I don't know what turkeys do, but they had to get through 3 fences to get into my backyard by my house. And then when it rains, the yards are flooded. The back part, it's a rushing river. And you're going to add these developments, not only with traffic, but what you're going to do with water. And, you know, if you want to build a house now on the unincorporated area, you can't have a septic below ground. You have to have an above-the-ground septic because of drainage. And this is no big deal because you have your sponge pools. You know, this is a different, if it was in your backyard, and one more thing, I have a lot of things, but one day there was an accident in my front yard, and the guy was drunk. I was going out running, and his car started smoking, and flames were coming from under his hood. I tried to drag him out of the car. Well, he was twice as big as me. 2 Portage cops parked on the road, stood outside their cars, and watched. Luckily, a South Haven Volunteer Fire Department guy was on his way to work, and he stopped, and he helped me pull this man out of the car because it wasn't Portage City jurisdiction. It was Porter County. Now, where are you going to divide that line with Porter County and Portage? It's a fine line that could have been somebody's life. Now, I'm sure the Portage policemen, you know, would have, if it came to that, they would have helped because they're humans. But and then, you know, you can talk tax dollars and everything it's going to generate and how good it's going to be for the building of the city. But is that going to be enough to save the city? I don't understand the logic. And we didn't get notice. I live a few houses down from the development, but it is, you know, this was supposed to be postponed or you know, delayed, but the construction or destruction, as I call it, has still continued. And right now, the big trucks that are sitting there, they're in, there's a puddle of clay where they're parked. But, you know, we shouldn't have to worry about that, right? Because they've got it planned.
Could I have a copy of the accident reports?
Yes.
Hello, my name is Don Pavey. I was here at the last meeting. I live at 662 North, 625 West. This development is directly behind my house. I'll have, I believe, 8 lots adjacent to my property. Nothing I can say, everybody's already said everything. The flooding issues are a big concern. It is what it is, doesn't fly in my neck of the woods. It needs to be addressed immediately. The elevation of the land has increased by at least 3 feet. I see no permits for this work. They've posted papers, but they're not permits to move that amount of dirt. I know if I do a pond over 3 acres, I gotta have a permit. I know he's moved over 3 acres of land. I don't know why he doesn't have a permit. That's Porter County. So my concern is he's doing all this work like he's already got permission. We were late notified on the subdivision. We only got notified of the subdivision lots, not when it was annexed, or we would have been fighting it then. There is no reason that land should have been annexed. It is not part of Portage. It is rural residential. It has been rural residential. We've all lived in rural residential and like it there. We don't need a subdivision smack dab in the middle of our enjoyment. The traffic study, I saw the strips out in front of the subdivision. That's not going to cut it. Need to look at 625 and 700. When you sit there for 15 minutes while traffic goes by because there's no stop sign, there's no way to alleviate that traffic. And you had 500 cars with this subdivision going toward Willow Creek or the other way with the other development he wants to do. Portage would be not our problem, it's County Road. It is your problem. You're causing the problem by allowing this. That's the problem. It needs to be on record that you caused the problem if you allow it. Because you can't just go, oh, it's county's problem, and then I'm stuck sitting there for a half hour trying to get to work because everybody threw up their hands on it because it's not your problem. I mentioned before, have this assessment been done on the fire, EMT, police, what that's going to cost versus what the tax revenue is going to bring in? I know you're under on that, by the way. I'm sure that's more for the city council. And the last couple things here, he mentioned the slopes on the driveway, so he's already asking for an exception on code. He's already planned on the exception on code. Didn't know about the sanitary, assumed. There's a lot of assumptions, a lot of things not being followed through until after the fact, and we're paying the price. You're letting somebody from another county come in and develop Portage and walk away. I don't find that comforting at all. I know his other developments have had issues. I know he's had issues. It's all documented in papers. But why are you letting this happen? Why is Portage letting this happen? That's all I got. Thank you.
Tony Essery. I'm speaking for my parents. We have a trust, 671 West, 600 North. Directly south of this planned subdivision, there's a little field that Mr. Burglar owns. Then there's my property. They've already raised the property 3 feet in the air. Now, prior to that, I've been under since '79. The edge of my property and where Mr. Burglar's field is, it constantly stays wet. He cannot plant anything there. It stays wet. They've raised this 3 feet, so they're going to flood him out, then they're going to flood me out. And the biggest thing, I'm back there on the back of my property today. Please look at me, sir. I'm on the back of my property today after I got through cleaning my barns, dumping manure, and one of his workers decided to walk across Mr. Burglar's field, across the small ditch, onto my property, which is clearly marked no trespassing, and start harassing me because I am dumping manure on the back of my property. I have a farm. This is not a threat. This is a promise. I don't make threats. If anybody from your development or anybody that works for you sets foot on my property again, I will hog tie them and drag them back to your property behind my tractor. Now, this is for the Portage City Council. They want to put this in at the corner of 700 and Airport Road. On the north side, there is a huge maple tree growing there. The workers are too lazy to cut it down. You want to bring more people in. I've almost been T-boned twice, because if you're going south or going east, you can't see around that tree even if you stop. And you want to bring more in. You want to bring more in, and you can't take care of what you got. We don't want it. We don't need it. We're happy. We chose this life out there. It didn't choose us. We've been here. I've been here since '79. I could have been anywhere. I chose to come here. I chose this life. And between this going on and that stupid Willow Creek extension, I can't keep people out of my hayfield now. I call the county. The county don't want to do nothing about it. Do I have to take matters in my own hands? And you're going to bring more homes in. I'm only going to assume, and it might make an ass out of me, but I'm only going to assume it's going to be more people from Illinois that don't respect anything. I mean, the people we have here now, they don't respect anything. I am forever having to run 2 miles down the road because I got somebody in my hayfield tearing my hayfield up.
I take it I still need to sign in, right?
Correct.
Thanks. My name is Austin Bonta. I used to be on this commission. I left this commission to focus on another city body and another thing I got going on. And thanks for the smile there, I appreciate it. I'm hearing all the people who are talking, and I just want to say everyone who came up and spoke, whether you live in Portage or whether you live outside the city of Portage, you're part of our community. Thank you for coming to speak. The second thing that really needs to be said, just because I'm hearing some things said by people coming up here, it's important to know, in case you're not familiar with this part of the story, this body, the Planning Commission, when this was up for annexation, I remember because I was there in the meeting, and the recommendation that they gave to the city council was something very different than what actually got approved by the city council. So I understand the frustration that's being said by everybody here. You guys are right to be here. You're right to be coming to multiple meetings to raise your concerns about this really problematic development. That said, this body here requested for the land, well, at the time, we were told that we were not allowed to give an opinion on whether or not the annexation could happen. That was out of this body's scope. I disagreed with that personally, but we had to go with what legal counsel told us. But when it went to the city council, the recommendation was for an R1 zoning, different from rural residential, because you can't do the rural residential when you do the annexation. R1 requires the least amount of density, and it requires the developer to come back to the city then to negotiate what they want to do. By the city council choosing instead to go to R4, which was a zoning made for one particular area of town, but allowed them to have the most dense development possible, it basically gave them carte blanche to do what they want. This body now has to deal with the fact that as long as what this developer proposes meets the city code, they have to vote for it. That was why I stepped down, because I did not want to vote for this. That said, please understand that the people up here are doing the very best they can to make the most out of this, because the city council dealt them a bad hand. That's my opinion, but I think it's true, and I know it's true for you guys. I just want to say, please, to the members of the Plan Commission, don't give up on making this the best that it can be, because the hand you've been dealt was not fair that you had to be dealt this hand. You don't have to respond, don't have to say anything, but I just want to make sure the people up here know that this body is doing what it can to address the issue with what they've been dealt. And I highly recommend that you take your concerns to the next city council meeting, because those are the people that really set up the current situation. Thank you.
Is there anybody else to speak against the petitioner?
My name's James Richmond, 649 North, 700 West, Holbrook, Indiana, 46342. I asked this question last time. Does Portage have an erosion permit like Porter County does? To clear cut down 5 acres of property, you have to have an erosion permit. I don't know if that's true. with Portage or not? I'd like that answered. Second is, how do you start work without any permits? Has any permits been issued for this job? Nothing's posted, so in the construction field, we can't start construction without permits. And I want to know why that started and why there's not a stop work order. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else here to speak against the petitioner? Thank you.
Letter is dated June 2nd, 2023, and presented to the City of Portage Planning Commission. If the proposed development at the 600 block of 700 North is passed, what are the developer's plans for a buffer screen around the perimeter of the subdivision to promote and protect the health, safety, and well-being of the surrounding community through the reduction of noise pollution, air pollution, security, and more? Have earth berms with proper drainage requirements, firewalls, or tree plantings been considered? Are there city zonal requirements for the setback, privacy screens, and buffers to mitigate the impacts this would have on adjacent properties in the rural community of Portage Township? If the proposed R4 development goes forth, there are more issues the city needs to consider for the future of the community if they haven't done so already. Residential development is a tax drain on the town. Economic studies show that most residential developments increase their needs for community services and do not cover those collected by tax revenues of new homes. Land use planning with open spaces should be focus of new proposed developments, not high-density residential subdivisions. Why? Because it is important for the town's character, because it is important for natural resources, because it's better for the environment, because it is an economic plus for the town. Open space is key to preserving our town's character. It protects our water, land, and wildlife resources. Many studies show that open space is actually a money maker for a town, bringing in more money in taxes for the cost of what little services it requires. For all these reasons, open space land development is an important local issue and, in my opinion, key to keeping Portage a nice place to live now and for future generations. This is why we are opposed to this R4 development adjacent to our property at 655 North, 700 West. We value our privacy, health, well-being, and surrounding natural resources and environment. We believe an R4 residential development is detrimental to this. Don and Marilyn Colossus of 663 North, 700 West, Portage, Indiana, 46342.
Thank you. If there is nobody else to speak before the commission, I close the public hearing.
Public hearing is open.
Oh, I apologize. I don't close it.
So I came last time and spoke a lot, and I was just curious to know, as far as addressing all of the questions that everybody's had, you know, kind of like, what's the process for that?
We're going to take care of them right now.
Okay, you are, okay. So the things.
I have them all
just
written down.
Oh, fantastic, okay. I just wanted to get clarification on that, because there were things that I had brought up before that I haven't heard anything about yet, so.
Well, if you haven't heard, what did you have that has not been brought up tonight?
I have to reference my notes from before. Talking about some of the things that I brought up were, I think we've already discussed the traffic situation, but the costs were one of the things that we were talking about. I don't know who determines the forecasting or planning for cost of, you know, the buses, the bus drivers, you know, police cars, employees, all those things that would be required to bring on the onslaught of neighborhoods that are being built in that specific area, actually, like behind Coles, plus the Cardinal Crossing area, plus this one. And then also, I had brought up about the school district and how, whether or not it would fall into the South Haven School District, because that's where my kids have gone for elementary, and I still have one there. And if they would be able to handle that, and again, with the buses and whatnot. One of the other things I brought up was about the freedoms of being in an unincorporated area where people can hunt and they can shoot guns and things of that nature. So whether or not, that's a concern, especially if you're planning on having a bunch of residential neighborhoods behind you. So I would like to, hear about how that should be addressed and how that might be affected. Crimes, that was also brought up. I had brought up before the question also of Portage Police versus Porter County, and who would address any kind of like criminal issues with this area, and how there would be, like the woman that spoke earlier, and I mentioned before, I've had many at least 5 accidents in my yard every year, and no one's ever come, and we haven't got a dime for anything. We just, our stuff just gets destroyed, and everybody moves on. And it's a very busy intersection right at 700 and Swanson. That's where we're at. There was the question that I also had about electrical outages, what the plan was for the established residents, and how NIPSCO is going to handle, basically just the new development and how that might potentially affect us. We're pretty good right now. We haven't had a lot of issues, but I know that the surrounding areas have. So that was another question. And yeah, I think that kind of covers it. But those were things that I had brought up that were, of importance before, and I would like to hear, anyone's opinion on, or thoughts, or whatever the responses might be. Whoever it is that you guys talk to or discuss amongst yourselves, I'm not sure what the process is exactly, but that would be helpful to know too. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll let you start addressing the questions they had.
Yeah, I took notes as well as Denise, thank you. I guess first to the 2 people that have actually had some of the workers trespass on their property, I have to apologize to them. That's not what we allow, and that will be dealt with. So I have to apologize for that. As far as the grading goes, we do have an earthwork permit posted. We do have our IDEM permits in place. All that's in place and done.
What was the first permit? I'm sorry, I didn't hear. The first
permits,
What?
we have an earthwork permit, and we do have our IDEM MS4 permit. That's all been secured. That's posted. As far as
Where's the earth permit from?
Public Works, it's a local permit issued by the community. As far as the installation of storm sewers, we cannot, just so everybody understands, we can mass grade the site and do our earthwork, but we cannot install any utilities, water, sanitary, storm, anything, until primary plat approval. So there are no storm sewers in the ground yet, and that will be done upon primary plat approval. That will start immediately. So just so everybody is aware of what happens there. There was another question about buffer zones. There are no buffer zones required. These are residential lots, backyards. Buffer zones are required for commercial and industrial properties when they abut residential. This is residential on residential. There's, we don't have any privacy fencing. We don't have any large plantings. Again, these are homes that abut other residential properties or, agricultural land. So the answer would be no on the buffer zones. As far as the traffic counts, a gentleman spoke and was criticizing the actual timing of the traffic count. That actually works completely against us. If we were going to try to look at a traffic count that will work in our favor, we would want to do it at the slowest time to show that there's no traffic on 700. So the fact that they did the traffic counts when they did, when there are high volumes of traffic, that is something that is not in our favor, just so everybody knows that. However, when the study is done and presented and the recommendations are made by the traffic engineer, we will abide by whatever those recommendations and whatever improvements that we were supposed to make. That's why we commissioned a traffic study. So I just wanted to address that. There's one being done. We'll present it to the city.
When did you do it?
They did the traffic counts, I believe, last week.
When?
A couple days. I know they were doing them on, I believe, Tuesday, Wednesday? Yeah, Tuesday, Wednesday, last week.
Tuesday morning, they put it in, Friday afternoon, they pulled it out.
So they've got a solid week of data, which is good. And we'll see what the study says, and that will be presented to the city. So that's being done. Again, as far as stormwater drainage, we have our engineer here. Don can address any specific questions related to the stormwater, but once again, we're doing grading. We have not installed any pipe, so there are no storm sewers in the ground. And I am glad that our crew is responding when called. I do apologize that they have to call, but at least our crews are responding, and I will speak with them about trespassing. Flooding issues, elevation land permits, we've done that. Slopes on driveways. I've addressed the slopes on the driveways. It says a 2-foot slope when appropriate, and I think I've endeavored to explain to the commission what that large a percent of slope is on a driveway. So I think I've kind of addressed that already. As far as criminal issues, it costs to the city, garbage collection, police response, things like that. That was all addressed in front of the city council at the time of annexation. That's all included and adopted in the fiscal plan that was presented to the city council. Never brought that up to the Planning Commission. That doesn't really have anything to do with the platting process. That was all part of annexation. So if you would like stormwater issues addressed and you would like some things explained to everybody, Mr. Craig will be happy to do it right now.
We're not in that position yet, so I do have a couple questions. I've never heard of an earthwork permit.
We'll have to explore it with stormwater. It'll be part of the meeting.
Well, Denise, I just want to be very clear on the earthwork permit. When we were going through this process, I was explaining about the grading of the property and the earthwork. I did speak to AJ, and he pointed me towards the Public Works Department for an earthwork permit. So I did not do that on my own. I didn't just think of it. That was what we were recommended to do. So we worked through Luke Sherry and Public Works on getting the stormwater plans reviewed, getting, our MS4, getting our erosion control in place, and all of the things that are required by the MS4 program. We did all that. So, just so everybody's very clear on what happened there.
The other item is they can work after the primary. I mean, we've had contractors.
We have a permitting issue that the attorneys have to meet with them and to discuss and to get through. That's why I've asked for a table.
Okay. I'm just asking clarification. They were saying they can build.
And that's as clear as I can be at this
Okay.
point in time.
May I have a motion?
I have a motion that we table this issue.
I second that.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Monroe, could you call roll?
Tom Cherry,
Yes.
Gina Geishurst,
Yes.
Sam LaBoy,
Yes.
John Harrison,
Yes.
Charles Thompson,
Yes.
Melissa Weidenbach,
Yes.
Kevin Witherspoon,
Yes.
Denise Little.
Yes.
Denise, this table to when? There has to be a specific time to table it to?
Whenever you have everything complete.
Continuance is to a date certain, a table is not.
So
So it's tabled.
Tabled indefinitely?
Technically, for right now it is, but like I said at the beginning, it was tabled until we have the stormwater and the sanitary on track. That doesn't mean it has to be 90 days, it doesn't mean it has to be 6 months, it's a minimum of 60 days, just because I don't believe the stormwater issues will be resolved before the next meeting.
you know what, Scott, if 60 days seems to be the time that we kind of are discussing here, I think that not only for our benefit, but for the benefit of all the people.
Okay, listen, I know what you're getting at. Do you want to have the meeting with me and the
I do,
city attorney
yes.
before we go down any more down that road?
I'm just thinking about all the notifications and everything.
Okay. Do you want to?
No, that's fine. I mean, I'll do it, but
Call the next case.
Next case is PD 0123 RCJJ Development LLC, care of Steve Kill, 14400 Lakeshore Drive, Cedar Lake, Indiana, seeking the approval of the preliminary development plan and rezone for Sandy Trails Plan Development, 54 plus or minus acres south of 5419 US Highway 6.
We have some of the same issues with this development on the stormwater end and on the sanitary end. Again, part of the meeting with the developer will be addressing those. I would make the same request that it be tabled. Obviously, they're the petitioner and they can make their request.
If you would like to make any presentation.
Sandy Trail, unlike Bauer Farm, is basically a zone change to PD with the PD's designation from our current zoning, so we'll maintain the same zoning. So once again, I think that we have, as far as stormwater goes, there are off-site easements that exist. We have triple the amount of stormwater detention that we are required to have. We have a very large sanitary sewer on Route 6 that we're tying into. We have complied with, I believe, all of the requirements of the PD, and it's a zone change, so all the engineering still has to be approved. But we've got a commercial component now, we've got a residential. AJ has directed how he would like things to be done. We've complied with that. We have our covenants, restrictions, we have everything done. So I'm not sure if it's for zoning. I mean, for a zone change, we still have all the engineering we have to present and do and get approved. But preliminarily, those are what we've done so far. That's what we've done.
I will now open the public hearing. Is there anybody here to speak for the petitioner? Is there anybody here to speak for the petitioner? Is there anybody here to speak for the petitioner? Is there anybody here to speak against the petitioner?
Do you want me to use the same sign-in sheet or a different sign-in sheet?
No, we'll have a different sign-in sheet.
Thanks, Steve. Okay. My name is Lou T-Rock. I'm at 3478 Debbie Lane on the north side of Route 6. I spoke last time on behalf of myself. I won't take a lot of time, but I would like to add a few more thoughts as long as the public hearing is open. This is in regards to the vehicle saturation, the access and egress to this bedroom community. As my home and investment properties front on the north side of Route 6, admittedly, my concern focus has been on the north side impact of this development. I've since confirmed by reviewing plans prepared by Turinga Engineering and by physical inspection that this developer plans to funnel all south side incoming and exiting traffic onto County Road 712. County Road 712 is a northbound stub off of County Road 700 North. This road serves a smattering of homes and seems barely wide enough for a bus or 2 passing cars. It's a very quiet rural residential area. And so my concerns turn to traffic as I daily watch the constant stream racing along Route 6, racing to get to the next stoplight. As I presented at the May public hearing, let's assume for the moment that the developer is granted the requested planned unit development classification and proceeds with the original plan of 183 lots, all duplexes. For the sake of argument, 183 lots times 2 cars, which is the average per household, times 2 because it's duplexes, that's 732 new vehicles. But you have to multiply that times 2 because each car leaves the home and it comes back. So that's 1,464 trips in and out of the development each day. Now, if 75% of those trips use the Route 6 exit, that leaves 25% of those trips using County Road 712, which is 366 new passes per day, up and down County Road 712, and doubtful that they will be driving the residential speed limit. No doubt there will be calls for widening 712 to accommodate the extra traffic, a new stop sign at 712, enhancements like turn lanes, curbs, signage, and that's just the south exit. Now, the 75% heading north to Route 6 multiplies out to 1,098 passes per day. I watch the Route 6 traffic snarl when customers slow to turn into Deep Blue Seafood, and there are perilous close calls. Now multiply that by 1,098 each day. Other considerations that I've had: necessary additional police, fire, schools, water, sewer system capacity, gas services, electric services. What about light pollution, air pollution, noise pollution, degradation of existing residential rural communities, and streets and snow plowing? The cost of these services becomes a factor relative to the density of the development. Control the upward spiraling municipal costs of servicing the new development. As expressed in May, I would encourage the members of the Planning Commission to deny the requested petition of zone change from M1 to PD. Forfeiting control over development by granting PD classification is an invitation for abuse of accepted wise beneficial norms. This has such a long-term impact. Beyond the pocketbook of the developer who will walk on to the next construction project upon completion, this impacts all who call Portage home. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, do you recall the last open hearing, a public hearing, Danny spoke. He was the gentleman with the very heavy accent, and he is now in Europe visiting family. I sat with him, we talked, he provided me with pictures of the flooding on his land, and I forwarded them to Dina, and I'm hoping that we have them available.
I have them, but I'm not able to open them.
We're not able to open them? Okay. I have Danny's comments. I can read them for you, or would you prefer for him to read them? It doesn't matter.
EJ has them also.
You're a lot easier to listen to than I am. But I do, if, I don't, whatever the
Whatever the
preference.
protocol is,
Right.
whatever the
Probably
correct
should read it.
protocol.
Yeah, I probably should read it.
Okay.
So Lou, I have two emails. One is an email from you that is attached to the photos that were provided. So that's the one I'm gonna read first for the commission.
Well, it's kind of, it was just,
And it's gonna roll into then number two, the letter from Daniel.
okay, but those descriptions, without being able to see the pictures,
Right.
it's really rather confusing.
I-
I could briefly summarize what the pictures,
Please, this is your email, so you'd be better to speak.
on the pictures, Danny's property fronts on Route 6. He is a semi-truck driver, and so he has, he pulls in with his semi and drives around behind his home and parks his semis there. Now, the pictures that he sent to me, that I shared and forwarded on, show flooding in the spring. I can see it from my house across Route 6 at his house, and the water is almost up to Route 6. Now, there's, well, and that's part, I was going to explain about this part of the letter. But these pictures show all this water. It's just overwhelming to see, and it doesn't go anywhere. It just sits. You see the ducks out there. He took pictures of the ducks. It's a pond. It's horrible. So that, I can't describe anymore.
So, what's being passed is a hard copy of the photos that were submitted. And then second, I have a letter also from Daniel that I would like to read into the record, if I may.
Yes.
My name is Daniel Georgievic. I own the property at 5406 US Highway 6. Please accept this written statement regarding PD 0123 Sandy Trails Development. I have several concerns regarding this development, including the current drainage of the parcels under consideration. In response to requests at the May public hearing for this petition, I provided digital photos of flooding of my property, including descriptions. Please understand that I drive a semi, which explains my view of the rear portion of my property. Snow melt and spring rains flood my property every year. Water flows south to north, slightly to the west from farmland toward Route 6. In addition, the previous owner of the adjacent west property added fill to the land, which is destined to be the developer's access road to Route 6. This fill has added in an attempt to eliminate the standing water. A north-south ditch was graded to condense water flow, but the water was not directed in any destination, hence the soil remains soggy. Vegetation, brush, small trees have flourished in this section due to difficult to impassable mowing conditions. Yet this is one of the two proposed accesses of the development and the one that will likely be dominant in usage. Outlot A, as defined on the Teranga engineering drawings, indicates a drainage and detention easement on the very west side of the development. Does this mean that the drainage and detention for the entire development will now be guided close to my southern property line? In addition, on the drawings, a street access stub is indicated immediately at the southeast corner of my property. This poses many concerns. As a professional over-the-road teamster, my semi-tractors and trailers and material are stored on my property. My concern is that placing a paved road at the very back of my property grants easy access for theft and vandalism. And now pavement is proposed on the very area that seriously floods every year. To keep the southern portion of my property usable for my semi-tractor trailers, fill has been added routinely every 3 years, and in 2023, we'll see another application. The fill applications are visible in the photos provided. I've been told that the farmer who tilled the subject farmland was known to grade and channel toward a drain that feeds southward in an effort to manage the standing water on the property. I have no proof, only word of another. In 2015, a month after purchasing their home at 5419 US Route 6, my neighbors, Flo and Millie Rodriguez, had floodwater ponding to within 10 feet of the southern edge of their home. In early 2016, they subsequently built a berm at the southern property line. That does help manage the water, but requires diligent maintenance. I would ask the commissioners to deny the petitioner's request to reclassify these parcels to a planned unit development, which allows uncontrolled development of the parcels, development which is not subject to zoning conditions and compliance. And more importantly, perhaps the designation of duplexes for that tract should be reconsidered. Building fewer homes on larger lots might be more beneficial to the complexion of Portage. There's no reason that home buyers looking for nice upscale contemporary housing on large lots must look to Valparaiso or Chesterton when there is potential land right here in Portage. Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you.
Rondi Solivice again. I live 688 West, 700 North. Again, just addressing the traffic situation. I didn't really do the numbers, but adding an additional subdivision, bringing more traffic to 700 North. And by the way, the accident reports, they could only go back 10 years for the accidents that happened in my yard. And as the storm sewage for this other subdivision, Sandy Trails, I think, Sandy Trails, you're talking about the huge sewer system on Route 6. Well, what is that going to do for 700 North and the unincorporated areas around where these developments are proposed to be built? And as for crime, the tax dollars are going to go to the city, but when we have somebody in our backyards, we're going to have to call the county. And yes, we do have open fields, and we have legal backstops so we can shoot in our yards because they are large enough, and we've had the county come out and let us know what we're supposed to do. So no buffer zones anywhere. So the people that live there in the unincorporated areas respect the unincorporated areas. The city, as I said, I mean, snowmobiles go through the farm fields. You know, they don't care that that's somebody's livelihood. And it's not the city that's going to have to take care of that. It's going to be the loss of the farmers and the surrounding unincorporated residents. Oh, and they can, I suppose, if traffic does get too bad. But by the way, I don't know when school let out in Portage, but it is true that the slower the traffic, the better it is going to be for the developer. School may have been out in Portage, but there's a big difference in the traffic when school is in session and when it's not. A great increase during school time. And, you know, so if they have to widen the roads, they can take our front yards because they can. And then instead of wrecking into my telephone poles or ditches or trees or fences, they'll be hitting my houses. And not just my house, our houses.
Okay.
Tuned in here.
Okay, so,
We're Flo and Melly.
we're the ones in Danny's letter, and we're
Yes.
next to Danny.
We're famous.
And our address is all public on the screen and
Everywhere.
on the memo, which we did not consent to. However, we had the question from last time about what they're gonna do. We're sandwiched, okay? They're gonna do the entrance on Danny's next to Danny's property, and then that lot that they own next to our property, which they don't maintain, and our question was, what are they gonna do with that lot? And why aren't they maintaining it? Because we're still maintaining it. And also our question was, okay, that sewer thing is right in front of our property. the one that they want to tie into for that subdivision, that Sandy Trails. So it's not looking good for us at all. So those questions we didn't hear the answers to those questions. Okay?
And I need help with the grass, so
Yes.
they'll buy me a lawnmower, they don't care, you know, so.
Okay.
That's good, thank you. Oh, I did have one more thing, sorry. We try our darnest to try and accept changes, but changes are rough. And like the other guy had said, he was on the panel with you guys on the board. And I'm on board for development.
But not like this.
But not like this. It's too much water, too much standing right in the corner of Portage, and they haven't not done nothing. As a matter of fact, if Turnick, the roofer, would never have sold that property, they would have a leg to stand on, because he finished the 22 acres that finished off the sale of that 56 Sandy Creek coming. So I could always give an opinion, and I congratulate those guys for trying to get the HEHO, but on the other side where they were supposed to build our famous
What? No.
sports complex and our entertainment center for Portage, that's all open field for them to tie in and try and develop that, you know? And the highway's there, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
I actually wasn't planning on coming up, but since I was referenced, I think that's just a really good statement to make. Everybody is for, I think everyone in Portage is for responsible growth and planned growth. And this land has a zoning designation. And if I remember right, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe at least 2 years ago, this same land was before the BZA, and they were trying to use the BZA to redesignate or get something through so they'd be able to make smaller lots, townhomes that were really duplexes kind of thing. And I remember the question I asked then is, what's the hardship? Because if you're on the BZA, you should always know, I want to do it is not a hardship. Now, when it comes to taking land that's M1 and turning it into a PD can be a great thing when it solves a specific problem, but we want to build more homes because it makes us more money, or that's not a specific problem a PD should be solving. So I think the question is, what's the problem with this land that a PD is the solution to? I think to that point, everybody who gets on the Plan Commission is given a gigantic white binder when you join this body. And within that binder, there's a lot of things. There's the city code, there's the rules of the Plan Commission, and there's a whole textbook from the state of Indiana on how to be a good Plan Commission, and there's a section on PDs about how to use them, but also a caution about overusing them and what not to use them for. I highly recommend taking a look at that, because I'm getting vibes, seeing all this, that to me, this looks like one of those things that textbook warns you about. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else here to speak against the petitioner? If not, I'll let you go ahead and answer the questions.
I apologize if I got people's names wrong. I really could not hear who was up there speaking, so I'll just go ahead and go down. I guess the first thing that I keep hearing about this is that everybody has a lot of flooding that is currently happening. So I'm actually glad that they brought that to the Plan Commission's attention, because then you'll know that it's not going to be the development's fault that there's any flooding going on. It's already existing there. We haven't done a thing. So the only thing that we can do, and if you look at the proposed plan, which they have, we have got a lot of detention here. So we're not going to cause any of the flooding. We're actually detaining 3 times the water that we're required to by the city's ordinance. Now, that gives some relief to the people around us that we actually have detention. We actually are going to have a place for the water to flow to. And there's going to be a control system in place. Instead of it just going wildly, I mean, the people are filling their property, they're building berms, they're doing other things. So now, hopefully, when they see the actual stormwater, all of our detention go in, storm sewers, they'll give everybody a place to go. I do have to apologize to the gentleman who keeps mowing our grass. We are gonna have a crew on that, or I might sit down and work something out with him and mow the grass, but I do understand the grass mowing, so we will get on that. The traffic, when we go to NDOT for a driveway permit on Route 6, again, we're at zoning. We're not into all that engineering just yet. But when we do, NDOT already has traffic counts on Route 6. They will determine what is required of us. And they will not only tell us, they'll tell the city too. And we will have to comply with whatever NDOT requires, or we're not going to get a permit. We are gonna make a southern connection. So we'll have a north and south connection there. The fire chief was extremely happy about that. That was brought up at the DRC meeting. So we do expect a lot of traffic to go to Route 6. Obviously, NDOT will look at all that when they make their determination on what's going to be required of us. But I think that it's important for everybody to understand, this property is already zoned for duplexes. And the north half of the property is already zoned commercial. All we're trying to do is combine those two components into a PUD. We've increased the size of our side yards. We've done a lot of things, almost everything that's been requested of us by the city. And again, this is just a zone change at this point. It is already zoned for duplexes. We're not asking to change the use. We're simply asking for a planned unit development, or a planned development as it is in Portage. We haven't gotten to any of the specifics yet as far as all the utilities are concerned. When I said there's a sewer on Route 6, I meant a sanitary sewer. There's a very large sanitary sewer and it's very deep. So sanitary sewer service is not going to be a problem. Stormwater won't be a problem. Like I said, we have accounted for 3 times what is required of us. So at this point, we're simply requesting a PD designation onto the M1 and the commercial. The zoning that we currently already exists. We're not asking for a change of use. The people need to understand that use is already allowed. So that's our simple request at this point. And we've prepared a development plan. It outlines every little thing that we plan on doing in detail. As in, again, AJ requested this and sent an example over of what he wanted us to follow. We did all that, and I'm hoping everybody has a copy of that. So the staff, AJ, you never gave the Planning Commission a copy of the development plan or anything? They said they don't have it.
Who gave out the public notice, Steve?
No, I'm just saying, I was hoping they had it.
Well, why would I do something I didn't do? So
Oh.
you're the one who sent out the public notice against the direction of the department. And now you're asking, did the department give information to the Plan Commission?
That was submitted to the department?
Where'd you get your public hearing notice from?
I drafted it.
And who gave it to you?
I drafted the notice.
So you didn't get it from the department?
No,
Okay.
no, not at all.
Okay. So at any point, do you think you've been prepared the last hour and a half?
Well, AJ, if you did not submit anything I submitted to the city, I'm sorry, Denise, I cannot control that.
But you can control putting it in out for notice without getting it from the city.
Well, when we complied with,
You didn't, did you comply? Because you made your own notice and put it in the newspaper.
yeah, that's what we do, that's what we do.
Do you have sign off of the stormwater department right now? For this
From
project?
From Luke, we've been working with
Do
him.
you have sign
for-
off yet?
Do we, Don? We may. I believe Luke said okay on our stormwater.
I don't have that, so I guess I'm gonna take your word for it again.
We've been working with him for a year.
Listen, man, the last hour and a half hasn't gone really well.
But again,
for
it's
you.
just zoning.
This is where we're gonna have the conversation?
But it's zoning,
A zoning comes with the plan development,
I understand that.
okay? So, yeah, they wanna talk about all of it.
Yeah, I'm prepared to do that too.
Okay, but we as the city knew you weren't ready. You put out a public notice in the newspaper, wasting all these people's time, and you don't have all the answers.
I've answered everybody's
No, I
question.
don't know if you have, buddy. I don't think you have.
I mean, are there questions that I have not answered? Please ask.
How can you start working without permits?
We did not.
Okay,
haven't done
wait a
anything.
minute. We can't have discussion between the audience. Everything had to come through. Right now, may I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we table this issue.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Could you call roll?
Tom Sherry,
Yes.
Gina Geis-Hurst,
Yes.
Sam LaBoy,
Yes.
John Harrison,
Yes.
Charles Thompson,
Yes.
Melissa Weidenbach,
Yes.
Kevin Witherspoon,
Yes.
Denise Little.
Yes.
I suppose that Mr. McClure will let you know when we've met and when we're ready to be back on. Thank you.
Can you call our next order of business?
Yes, SP 0623, Portage Township trustee Brendan Clancy, care of Tom Runkle with Abinmarsh, 303 River Race Drive, Unit 206, Goshen, Indiana, seeking approval of site plan improvements for a baseball facility at 5830 Evergreen Avenue.
Good evening.
Good evening.
If you would like to go ahead and present.
Okay. So Evergreen Park is a facility owned by Portage Township within the city of Portage. There are 2 existing baseball fields on the site, some buildings that are a press box structure, some sheds, a storage garage in various states of repair, as well as a lot of asphalt parking that is in pretty bad shape. So the township would like to essentially remove all the existing improvements on site, all the structures, the baseball fields, and the paving, reconstruct a new baseball field, more modernized to facilitate more kind of youth competitive league type activities, redo the parking lot, access drive along the west side of the park, as well as in the existing eastern access drive, reconstruct that and use it as a turnaround for food truck service during games. And then in place of the current smaller easternmost ball field, they want to construct a skate park. So they'll be installing a concrete pad and then prefabricated skate structures above grade. It's not a like in-ground base bowl type structure. And you know, upon approval, we'd like to go out to bid as soon as possible.
Thank you.
So I believe in this packet, you did receive the set of plans because we did place them on the agenda. So a question I think has come up. As you guys know, Charles works for Abinmarsh.
Yes.
Knowing that Abinmarsh was representing trustee Clancy on this project, the city had asked Abinmarsh to establish a firewall between Tom and his design team and Charles. So Charles is not the designer on this. He was independent of that review. So Avon Marsh has provided a review with a firewall in place, so to make sure that there was no conflict. And I was at the DRC meeting, and there were some comments offered by Avon Marsh on the Avon Marsh set of plans. So, and so Tom's worked to get those matters resolved. And I believe that in the staff report, there's 2 conditions, that this does not yet have Luke, Sherry, and the Stormwater Department's sign off. So we would ask that to be contingent on the approval tonight. And secondarily, there's the second note on the right-of-way. In our thoroughfare plan, Evergreen is identified as a collector with a 35-foot half-width right-of-way. As you know, in more recent years, Evergreen's been closed. It doesn't function as a thoroughfare the same way it did in the past. So we're gonna take a look at that. In all likelihood, we're gonna make a recommendation that that be reduced to a local street with a 25-foot right-of-way, which would be consistent with what has been presented to you this evening. You're welcome.
Now, this is not a public hearing.
No, ma'am, site.
Okay, okay. So I will open it to questions from the board.
I like the idea. I like that they're developing this field out there. The kids need more places to hang out and play games. I like when I go to the restaurants and I see teams from outside the city visiting our town because they have tournaments in our area. It's a wonderful thing. This is a good plan. I reviewed it. As far as I can see, I'm no engineer, but I like what I see.
I agree. I'm definitely excited to see.
Make a motion to approve the site plan contingent upon approvals from the city's Portage Stormwater Board of Approval. Evergreen Avenue right-of-way needs to be approved by the Board of Works.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Could you call roll?
I can't. Tom Sherry?
Yes.
Gina Geis-Hurst?
Yes.
Sam LaBoy?
Yes.
John Harrison?
Yes.
Charles Thompson?
I recuse myself.
Well done. Melissa Weidenbach?
Yes.
Kevin Witherspoon?
Yes.
Denise Little?
Yes, and congratulations.
Thank you.
May I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Thank you.
Council?